Welcome, fellow horror hounds, and welcome to the latest episode of Talk and Stalk, your unholy home for horror. I'm your host, as always, Barry, and today's podcast is going to be devoted to Halloween Kills, which is obviously released in October this year. Obviously, it was supposed to be October last year, but obviously it's been delayed by an entire year for obvious reasons. This is definitely a film that I'd like to see on the big screen, ideally. So all I'm really going to talk about on this podcast are some of the things I want to see from this movie and some of the things that I don't want to see. Now, I'm really excited for it. I liked Halloween 2018. I liked it. I had some issues with it, certainly. It was by no means great. But at the same time, it was the best Halloween film in a long time, in my opinion, which isn't really saying much. I think the Halloween franchise has very much kind of been a rocky road over the years. But with Halloween Kills, one of the things I do want to see in this movie is, and this is one thing that has essentially been promised us, a badass Michael Myers. From what I've been told is that this film is gonna be pretty brutal. So I'm expecting quite a high body count from this film. From what I can kind of tell, Michael Myers is going to be pretty relentless in this movie. So I'm kind of expecting, I want there to be a good kind of kill count. Now, I'm a person kind of more quality over quantity. When it comes to slasher movies, I'm not really that bothered about massive body counts or anything like that, but it's the execution of the kills themselves. And while I'm expecting a big body count in this film, I want some of the kills to be memorable. I want some of the kills to be, people are really kind of like talking about afterwards. So that's what I kind of want to see. I want to see this kind of killing machine from Michael Myers, but this also gets me on to my next point. Now, I realise this isn't easy to do. This is pretty tough to kind of execute. While I'm expecting some good kills, at the same time, I want this film to, in some shape, way or form, capture the essence and spirit of the original Halloween. So for Michael Myers to kind of be the Boogie Man, I want Michael Myers to be able to actually have some time to kind of stalk his victims, because to me that's what always stood out about Myers in comparison to the likes of Jason Voorhees. Myers is more of a stalker. Michael Myers seems to spend his time, certainly in the first two films, the first film especially, and there was a level of restraint even with Halloween H20, which I do like. That, he's kind of the Boogie Man, that whole kind of teleportation trick. He's there one minute, the next he's not, stalking his victims. I'd like the film to have an aspect of that. I don't want this to be, 2007's Rob Zombie directed Halloween, where there was basically very little to nothing of that. Myers just going in there for the kill and just being brutal as hell. And I really didn't care for 2007's Halloween, I'll admit. I didn't hate it. Hate's a strong word. But at the same time, I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. I can fully commend Rob Zombie for doing his own thing, etc. John Carpenter actually said to him, look, put your own stamp on this film. Put your own identity on it, and that's what he did. But I'd like for there to be that kind of boogeyman aspect, and we got bits of that in Halloween 2018. There were definitely aspects of that. I loved the shot, the pan, that shows us Michael Myers walking through the street, and he picks up the hammer and he obviously kills a woman, which was definitely an allude to 81's Halloween 2. And then the camera following him to the next house and killing with a knife and that. And then kind of one scene I did particularly like, actually, is the scene in Halloween 2018 where the motion sensors in the garden, Myers is there, and then they go off and he's gone. And I really liked that, because that kind of touched upon the whole kind of the stalking, the boogeyman aspect of Michael Myers. So, yeah, I just kind of want them to kind of capture at least kind of a sliver, an aspect of that. Also, something that I want to see in this movie as well. Obviously, the score. I really did like the score for 2018's Halloween. to see that returning as well. Paying respect to the original Halloween whilst doing something a little different. Because, it kind of tweaked the score. I felt like it really kind of introduced a very kind of new aspect to the score. And I thought it worked really well for the movie itself. Obviously, with this film, what I want to see is some of these characters that are actually returning, the likes of Tommy Doyle, the likes of Lindsay Wallace, to not just being there for the sake of it. So fans can sit there and oh look, Tommy Wallace is back, or Tommy Doyle is back, Lindsay Wallace is back. I'm all for nostalgia, I'm all for callbacks, but at the same time, I don't like it for the sake of it. I don't like the fact of just being bashed across the head constantly from start to finish with callbacks. I want these characters to have some kind of detriment to the actual story. Do you know what I mean? I know Charles Cyphers is back as Sheriff Lee Brackett, which I didn't even realise that Charles Cyphers was even still alive. I don't even know how old he is now, because the original Halloween was released in 1978. And he was clearly probably in his late 40s then, I'm guessing. Late 40s, maybe early 50s. I'm not sure. But I just want these characters to actually do something, to actually have some kind of purpose in the actual story. Now, just to kind of get on some of the things that I don't want to see in this film, it kind of actually returns to the point that I just made. I just don't want to see constant callbacks. I don't want to be bashed across the head with homages. 2018's Halloween certainly had homages. It's a film that paid respect to the original movie, but there were definitely moments where I thought, was that really needed? Did they have to do that? I get what they're doing. They're trying to appease, fan service and all that. There was a nice, where Laurie Strode's granddaughter looks out the window and she sees, Laurie stood there, very much making a callback to the original Halloween. And obviously the scene where, Laurie Strode goes falling out of the house and then Michael goes and she's gone. Again, alluding to the original 1978 film. I just don't want it to be constant. I don't want it to be constant. And just quickly as well, something else I'd like to see. Just a quick little thing. Very cosmetic. I don't feel like it's going to make any kind of overall big bearing on the plot. And that is, I would like an allude to Ben Tramer. Obviously, I know Ben Tramer was killed in 81's Halloween 2. But obviously, this movie actually ignores all of the events of of all the films in between 78's Halloween and Halloween 2018. I thought it would be a nice little touch if we find out that Laurie Strode actually got involved in a relationship with her high school crush, Ben Tramer. I thought that would be a nice little kind of nod to the fans, and I don't feel like that's bashing someone across the head with nostalgia. It'd just be like a quick little kind of callback. But yeah, something else that I don't want to see either. I don't want to see the film playing it safe, and there's people that are going to hate me for saying this. I like it when risks are taken. I like it when a film has the balls to do something that you don't expect. But we're kind of at that age now where the unexpected has almost become the expected. For this film to kill off characters that you wouldn't expect it to kill off. Now, I'm not necessarily saying Laurie Strode, because obviously there's one more film to come. And, if Laurie's going to die, which I'd commend if executed correctly, that's the thing, it's got to be done correctly, okay? I'm not going to say that this is going to, make or break the film for me, because it isn't. But if Laurie was to be killed off, I'd imagine that would be the third movie. And maybe her granddaughter or daughter, to really kind of push the story forward. Because, as I said on my Scream 5 Expectations podcast, I think sometimes when you play it safe, it runs the risk of becoming predictable and formulaic. the same people surviving film after film after film. I like it when risks are taken if they're executed correctly. And excuse me. I'm also looking forward to something that I also don't want to see as well. There was a subplot in Halloween 2018 that I really didn't care for. I kind of get what they were doing. They were trying to do something different, etc. I believe Dr. Savitar, it obviously turns out, in a bit of a twist, if you will, he's actually, kind of trying to help Michael study him and etc. And he obviously kills the sheriff. I really don't want some kind of out there kind of subplot that's thrown in for whatever reason. I want this to somehow capture the spirit of. I know it's not easy to do, to kind of appease fans of the original Halloween, to pay respect, but at the same time to not throw in too many things that I feel veer away from the overall plot. I really didn't like that little kind of subplot thing that was kind of thrown in there with Dr. Savitar, and I really didn't like his death either. I don't want to see more deaths like that, in fact. Now, I'll admit, of the killers, Jason Voorhees is probably the more inventive killer than Michael Myers, certainly. But to me, that death in Halloween 2018 was more fitting for a Friday the 13th film than it was a Halloween film. I don't really want to see any kind of over-the-top deaths in this film, which to me, Halloween 2018 had none aside from that head-stomping scene. I did particularly like the moment of the kind of carved as a jack-o'-lantern head. I thought that was kind of like a nice little kind of touch. And there were a few kills actually off screen in Halloween 2018. There was a level of restraint to it, which I do kind of appreciate it for. You don't always have to see the kill. If you see the aftermath, it can be every bit as impactful, in my opinion. But I just don't want to see any kind of over-the-top Michael Myers squishing people's heads like watermelons and shows of huge superhuman strength. I mean, we know that Michael Myers isn't your typical human being. There's that whole kind of like, is he on evil on two legs, or is this a man driving strictly on adrenaline or whatever? But I just want to kind of see a more kind of grounded aspect, if that makes sense, with deaths that aren't over the top and little kind of subplots kind of thrown in for, I don't know, purely for the sake of it and stuff. I mean, I commend studios and stuff when they try to do something a little different. I mean, it all depends on how it's executed, etc. But I am very much looking forward to Halloween Kills and looking forward to its follow-up. I'm hoping this film lives up to the hype that John Carpenter has given it. He seems to think that most Halloween fans are going to love this film, that it's very much kind of a quintessential slasher movie. But we'll see. At the end of the day, he's there to promote the film. They're not going to slate it, but at the same time, he shoots from the hip. John Carpenter's someone that rarely ever sugarcoats things. If he likes something, he'll say it. If he doesn't, he'll say it. So, yeah. So they're pretty much my kind of expectations. And I just wanted to capture the overall kind of Halloween vibe. So we actually feel like it's Halloween itself. Which I think Halloween 2018 did an okay job. It did an okay job of that. I think some of the films in the franchise have overall kind of failed to kind of convey that real kind of Halloween feeling sometimes. But I know that lighting plays a big part in it. The cinematography and so forth. So I'm just kind of hoping that we can kind of capture the essence that this is actually Halloween night. And I'll also say that I did love the mask in 2018's Halloween. So I'm looking forward to that mask coming back. I saw a screenshot quite recently of the mask being blood-soaked, which I thought looked pretty cool. So it's hands down the best mask we've had since 1981's Halloween 2, which of course is the original 1978 Halloween mask. It's just gone through a lot of, wear and tear. So, and I also thought J.J. Courtney did a great job as Michael Myers. The best Myers, in my opinion, since Nick Castle. But yeah. So that's pretty much all I really want to talk about today. So I'm going to wrap that up, and thanks for everyone that listened. If you like what you've heard, please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Talk and Stalk. Completely devoted to horror. Every subscribe is massively appreciated, and I just genuinely love doing this. And I'll be back again soon to haunt you and torment you. Take care.